All right, shalom and good evening, boys. Here, welcome to the covenant. Well, what I wanted to do is get on and really start driving home uh, this point of making sure that we are fiscally sound in how we go about dealing with money. Now, I firmly believe that, and this just solely by looking at 2025 and going into 2026, particularly. And I've said over and over again, the massive amounts of layoffs that are taking place, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, it's when you really look at it, it's never happened like this before outside of the Great Depression. And I believe that we're heading into the next Great Depression. Uh, if not, we're already in it. But, your politicians and these people and your president, he's not going to tell you that because he wants you to continue to spin. He wants you to continue to feed the beast and not make sure that your household is taken care of. So what we're going to be talking about briefly today is, strategies that you can put in place right now in order to preserve yourself, because we clearly see what's going on, and we've been talking for years about an emergency fund, putting things back, food storage, water storage, supplies, anything that you may need when it comes to yourself or your children, to put that stuff back so that, as times get a little bit more tumultuous when it comes to the economics, you can weather the storm. So with that being said, we want to first look into your monthly expenses and whatever you can do to cut out any kind of discretionary spending. Now, me personally, I've operated like this for a very long time, for as long as I can remember, in terms of making sure that, I stayed out of any kind of secured debt where if I couldn't pay, they can take something from me. And so even now, I look at, the budget, and I know, I have a little spreadsheet or a little document that I keep track of what the monthly expenses are. And I look at that thing, and there's really nothing to cut. I mean, honestly, the only thing that I can see to cut is Netflix. That's the only thing that I can see to cut, and that's about $20 a month. 10. As a matter of fact, I look at it. $15-20 a month. But you want to look into cutting as much discretionary spending as you can. And with me, it just comes with being out and about and spending. That kind of stuff. Sincerely, personally, that's where all my discretionary spending comes from. Spending, things, entertainment, stuff like that. But that will be sharply reduced. And I'll tell you how I'm dealing with that as well. But first things first is that you want to look at your discretionary spending and to see where you can cut from any kind of frivolous spending that you may have. Cutting that immediately, out the gate. And whatever you can do, number two, after you look at the discretionary spending, look at, things that you may not necessarily need, or you can change over from something, going from something that you have to pay for something that you don't necessarily have to pay for. And a perfect example of that, and I've been talking about this for years, is a wood burning stove. Because see, let me tell you something. During the winter time, we use propane here to heat the hot water, or the hot water heater, as well as the stove. Those are the only two pieces of equipment that we have are running off of propane. And what we do in the wintertime is, once it gets consistently hot, what we do is we transfer over all cooking to the tops of the wood burning stove. And both of them are the kitchen is right there, and the living room right there, the den is right there. So we got two wood stoves, so we can have 4 pots and pans going at any given time. And what we do is we shift over to that mode of cooking, because why spend the resources when it comes to propane? Uh, it doesn't make sense when you have that source of heat right there that you can, a lot of the stuff that you make, on a countertop, outside of fried foods or something like that, you can make right on top of the wood burning stove. Soups, rice, pasta, all types of stuff. You can cook right on the old dishes and stuff right on the wood burning stove. So why spend the resources when it comes to using the propane when we can just use the wood? Because again, what I like about the wood burning stove is that you see these right here. A lot of people, they'll look at it, right, and they'll say, it's just a stick of wood. You know what I mean? A branch of wood. But these branches that I use right here, it can keep the wood stove. And what I'll do is I'll put the branches right up on top of the wood stoves to draw any moisture out of it. So that's a strategy. That's why, and you don't have to worry about it catching fire. It's not going to catch fire. But that's what I do is that, fallen branches, and I got tons and tons and tons of branches that's already laid out in piles from the tree servicing companies that go ahead and dump the wood on the land. I just tell another brother, I'm saying, start having tree servicing companies go and start to dump wood on your land, because the wood that you're going to need is not going to go to waste. I mean, I got a ton of trees in the back that's been neatly laid out, and I can go ahead and cut that stuff up. So a perfect example of eliminating those expenses is to switch over to something like a wood burning stove. Not only you can heat, but you can cook, and you can boil water and stuff on that thing too, as well. But that's a good strategy when it comes to just eliminating your bills by just go ahead and installing a wood burning stove. You can get them on Craigslist, so you can get them on Facebook still. They're a little bit more expensive than they were. I mean, I got the standard price of the wood burning stove, or the highest that I think I've purchased a wood burning stove off of Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist was no more than $450, $500. But they're going up to like $1,000, $1,500, and that's for the used ones. But you definitely don't want to go ahead and purchase a new one. They can run into thousands of dollars. So you want to be cognizant of that. And making sure that you're putting back other resources like wood that you're going to use that's renewable, seeds, stuff like that as well. So this is an excellent strategy that you can implement, provided that you're out, in the country. And those pretty much the people I talk to is people that live this kind of life. Of course, it is not going to apply if you're living in the city. But those are the things that you can do, to reduce your expenses. Because let me tell you, man, propane going up, everything is going up. And the best way that you can go about doing that is just, dollar cost average into it and buy as much of it as you can. Now, when it comes to the propane part, a lot of homesteaders, we use propane. I mean, it's just, it's just a energy source that we can use. And what I like about propane is that you can use it and you can store it as well. You see? And what I personally do is not only do I have transfer systems to take propane from like my large propane tank and put them in the smaller propane tanks, and then from the smaller propane tanks to put them in them little handheld blower tanks. I mean, I can transfer that propane into these different storage units, but I go ahead and I'll find somebody that's on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and selling them empty propane tanks, and I'll go ahead and get them and fill them up and just put them back. So now, you know what I'm saying, I have extra, 500 gallons worth of propane just sitting back on the side, separate from my primary propane tank. So, you can store this stuff as much as possible. So, you could store a lot of wood, you could store a lot of propane, and I would suggest that you store as much of it as possible. So that's another strategy that you can implement because, again, I'm going to try and do more of these videos because we need solutions. We need people that's talking about and implementing and living the solutions. And I would definitely never, talk or listen to anybody that you can't look at their life. And if they're not doing anything themselves along the line, because, I've personally, have discovered that if a person is not living this thing, they're not going to advocate it at all. As a matter of fact, they're going to be against it. So you're not going to get any kind of direction or an encouragement from any of those kind of people because they're stuck in the same boat as everybody else. So those are, some of the things that you want to do, reducing your expenses, eliminating your, any kind of excess discretionary spending. But those are the two things what you do. But number three, and I've said it again and again, you want to make sure that you have an emergency fund. You got to get an emergency fund because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, if you can, I know a lot of us out there where, where we have a lot of, responsibility and, income may be limited, especially if you work a job. And this is why I always recommend, businesses, people having businesses, you know what I'm saying? Because, if you have businesses, you can get some good licks in and save a whole lot quicker that way. But especially if you, a little small business owner, try and put back at least 6 months to a year. And it's come to think about it, I'm recommending years if you can. I mean, I know it's a challenge, but put back at least a year's worth of expenses, so that if anything, could happen or did happen, you know what I'm saying, you can weather the storm, because anything can happen to us. Could fall on sickness, or anything like that. Break a leg, break an arm, and you got to heal. So, that gives you that cushion to heal. Another thing that and I'm big on it anyway, but I'll just share what we do is, I stay away from all types of, where possible, you know what I'm saying, situations where I can hurt myself. I try and be as careful as possible, making sure that the children are careful as possible, making sure that the wife is careful as possible. I mean, of course, anything can happen, but you wanna just be as safe as possible when you're going to and fro. Keeping up with your health is best as you can. I mean, I've had to personally change things. I just turned 49, and just before you know it, it felt like 18. I can remember 18 like it was yesterday. I can remember 25 and 30 like it was yesterday. I can remember moving here like it was yesterday. It's just the mind just don't go bad like that, I guess. I guess for me it doesn't. But I can remember things vividly as if it was just yesterday. You're going to need to take all of these things, into consideration. So, definitely your emergency fund, making sure that you're keeping up with your health, making sure that you're not, doing anything risky, anything like that. As best as you can. Again, there's only but so much we can control. But anything within our sphere of control, we should attempt to do it. What else? We know, storing food, putting food back, with these inflationary times, it's like everything that you purchase now is expensive. So there ain't not much you can do on that. The idea is that again, I mean, if you looked at years ago, a lot of, basic staples, they were, less expensive. So you can buy two, three, four, five. But now, I mean, when you're prepping, you may be able to buy an extra one or extra two at best. Me, I used to try and get at least 10. I mean, if I'm going in, buy 10 packs of flour, 10 bags of sugar, buy the tens. 10, 10 jars of honey, 10, um, uh, spices. I mean, I could just go on and on, buy 10 of them. Buy 10 garlics, I mean, just, that's just what I do. But now, even this time, you're not going to be able to buy as much. So this is why it's so important to, transition over to making sure that you're hunting, making sure that you're raising your cattle and you're throwing that in the freezer. I gotta process a lamb this week sometime when I get the opportunity after I finish some projects. But these are the things that you're gonna want to be doing. Um, Preparing for your garden beds to grow some food. I mean, I also have another business called Covenant Pharmacy. Uh, Let nature feed you, let nature be you. An excellent slogan. It's amazing how that whole thing, came about and who actually developed that slogan. But I'm going to make a whole lot of money off of it because uh, when it comes to the ability to grow food, and now that the learning curve is over, I know how to grow kale. I know how to grow lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and onions and collard greens and Swiss chard because I've been doing it for so many years. Now I know how to do it because again, there's a learning curve when it comes to these things. You just don't move out into the country, move on a piece of land, and then all of a sudden you just know how to grow food. It just doesn't happen that way. Um, but these are the things that you're going to want to be doing. Preparing for that garden. Just do as much as you can, and be as self-sufficient as you can possibly can and network and coordinate with other people. Your mutual assistance group, making sure that you're coordinating time, energy, and resources to help out those that's within your group so that, as times get tough, you can lean on one another and you can share resources and that micro networking that you can do in your local community. All things very important that needs to be implemented now. It's not something that folk need to be scratching their head on. These are things that you need to do right now, so that you can preserve yourself and your family. Because again, it's gut wrenching to see the homeless in the RV situation, uh, the working class people that can't afford a home, so therefore they're living in a tent and they're going to work, and you see them go to work, but you don't know that they're going back to an RV or a tent somewhere, because they can't afford this rent that we see today. I know it's a long rant. It is what it is. People that get it, they get it, and people that don't, hey, there's foolishness and distraction out there for you all day long. And you can watch that stuff all day long. And it ain't going to help you out no good whatsoever. So, I'll continue on to part two, getting into more ideas of things that's worked for me in the past and I want to share with you. But all right, part two coming. Stay blessed. Shalom.